Hi, it is Rebecca Reinking, and I'm a speech pathologist, and I want to share my favourite activities that I do when I first start minimal pairs therapy. Now, this is going to focus on step 3, which is producing our words differently. So, nail and snail, we're going to be contrasting them or saying them differently. Because often a child would look at this and say nail, but then they'd also look at this snail picture and they'd also say nail. So, by contrasting and saying the words differently, we know that the child is changing their sounds to change the meaning of the words. And it makes minimal pairs therapy a little bit different to complexity approach or to cycles approach if you're only practicing like those S clusters on their own. So I have 5 activities I use, and I purposefully have chosen these activities because I feel like the activities lend themselves to contrast therapy. And you're going to see what I mean in a second. So activity 1 is Connect 4, and I'm going to link all of the activities and games in our comments below just so that you can find them online, and they might be slightly different if I can't find the exact same game as mine. But what I might do with a game like Connect 4 is I might say to the child, when we say this word here, which is nail, we get to put a red token in. And then they might get to put in the yellow token for the S cluster word. And I do this on purpose. You're going to see why. So if the child looks at this and they say nail, which they're really, really, really good at, I'm going to put a red one in and I'll say, awesome, I heard that. Let's do this one, snail. Now, if they say snail, they get their yellow counter and they put it in. However, if they look at this, but they say nail, which is my word, I might say to the child, oh, you want me to put one in? Okay, fine. And then I put one in. And then if they look at that and they say no, nail, again, I'll act confused and I'll say, Rich, you want me to keep putting one in, so I'll put another red one in. And what this does is now the child has a visual representation of our minimal pairs. It's like great visual feedback. And this can motivate the child to stop and to clarify what they mean. And I do help them out. Like I will say, did you mean snail? Because I think you want to have a turn, don't you? Remember, if you mean snail, you have to use that long S sound. So then they get to have a turn. So this way, it's really motivating for the child. The child has this drive to make sure that they contrast the words so that they can put their counters in. Now, if the child doesn't want me to have a turn and they just want to do this themselves, that's fine. But if they keep saying nail, I will keep giving them red. And then it becomes pretty obvious when these are all run out, what happened to saying snail with that long S sound? So this visual representation and using games where you have this clear separation can really help consolidate the purpose of minimal pairs therapy, saying our sounds differently. So here's my second activity, and it is another Connect 4 style game. And you will see that I'm not playing it technically as like Connect 4. Like my purpose here isn't to get 4 in a row or to get, 4 diagonally. It's simply about you practice a word and you get an object or a manipulative or a toy and you get to do something with it. So this is something I like to do if my child is a bit bored at the table, because I put it down on the floor and we're throwing these in and we're seeing if they can land. So again, I associate colours to our minimal pairs. So if it is our W word like wing, it might be yellow. So when they say wing, they get the yellow ball and they get to throw it, see where it lands. If they say swing, I'll give them the red ball and they do that. If they say wing, I give them 2 yellow balls. So I'm giving them feedback based on my activity. Because like I said, if we run out of all the balls associated with the word that they're really good at, if they want to keep throwing, they're going to have to make sure that they clarify and they fix and they put that long S sound on so that they get to have the balls associated with that colour. This is my third activity. Now this is actually a coin sorter and you can see it's got little slots up here. I just like it because I can fill things up and the child can see how many practices they get because we're going to put things inside. Now, I'm not using coins. In my therapy room, I have lots of containers with just manipulatives. Like I've got pom-poms, I've got foam, I've got lots of things because they all represent practice trial. So I would say to the child, which one are we saying? Let's do leap, sleep. So if they say leap, leap, I might feel 2 up in here. And if they look at me, I'm saying, well, you said leap, leap. Did you mean sleep? Let's fix it. Let's put that long snake sound on. And then we fill it up here. So it's really nice. Kids like to put things inside. It just keeps them engaged. So a lot of these activities, it's just about keeping kids engaged, keeping their hands busy so that they can contrast the pairs. And then you'll see I only stuck these on with blue tack. I might get my next words, stick them on. Let's practice making them sound different. And Abacus is my 4th favourite activity. Well, it's actually my 1st favourite activity because I love that you can get a lot of high practice trials with an Abacus. And I'm going to give you a couple of different variations because I'm always changing my instructions and my feedback based on how the child is responding. So, for example, the child might move 2 beads across if they contrast these and say them differently. So if they say leap, sleep, they can move 2 across, which is nice. Then they get to move 2 across at a time. Now let's say, for example, they say leap, leap, and they drop off that S. And if they move 2 across, I might move 1 back and go, oh, you said that one twice. You forgot to say this one. And sometimes the act of moving that 1 bead back when they thought they had it over this side, it really motivates the child to be like, no, 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 and they stop and they correct. So I really like to use my activities as visual feedback because it lets the child know that they were saying this one. And it's not like, I guess it's like it's not just me saying, no, you're wrong. If I move 1 back, I'm like, oh, say that one, or you forgot. So it can be that little motivating factor too. So this is a really, really great one to get high practice trials, especially at the end of a session, because each row has 10 practices. And a lot of my kids, they just want to finish a row. Again, I put blue tack on my Abacus so I can easily change my minimal pair cards and go through different target words. The last activity that I like to use, this is a little science, little counting kit. It has test tubes and it's got a tray here. And I've got all these balls like this. So I like that I can put my cards in the tray, and then if they mean key, I'll give them a ball and they get to fill it up. And then if they say ski and they contrast, we fill it up as well. So I like this because there's 40 balls all together. I can keep putting in more test tubes, and it just means that I can try to get as many practices as I can because, like I said, there is this inbuilt motivation where the child just wants to see and fill up that test tube. And with our feedback, again, if they say key, key, but they really mean key, ski, I might either give them 1 for saying this, or I give them 2 and they put 2 in this one and they get to see that this is uneven. And if they want to fill this one up, they need to make sure that they use that sound and they make them sound different. So I hope that's given you a couple of new ideas on how you can use minimal pairs therapy with our kids to practice their contrast and to understand the idea of saying our words differently. I really think that this visual feedback can really help to consolidate the minimal pairs therapy approach, especially if the child is new to minimal pairs therapy and they're not used to contrasting those 2 word pairs. So make sure you like this video and leave a comment if you found it helpful. And if there are any other therapy approaches that you want to see activity ideas for, or know what else I have in my cupboard, just leave comments. We look through them, we read through them, and I love the challenge of finding things in my room that can help you treat speech sound disorders more confidently.